Okay, so here we are in the New Forest, and we're going to go and look for some chaga and have a chat with my friend Phil, who's an interesting character, and his wife Bianca. Of course, people don't know what chaga is. So I better explain to you what chaga is. It's a sort of fungus that grows on a silver birch tree, and it's got lots of medical properties. It's kind of a superfood on one level, but it also is supposed to help stop things like cancers. It's supposed to balance blood pressure. We've got some once before, and I've taken it quite a few times, and it also has a really nice mellowing effect. And actually, chaga is supposed to increase people's clairvoyance and things like this. It does certainly, I feel, sharpens the attention in an interesting way. It's not like a hallucinogenic drug or anything, but it has a sort of a certain psychological quality too. But it's the medical properties of it that I think are really interesting. There's been a lot of research done on it, and they reckon it can be, it can cure all sorts of things, all sorts of illnesses. So worth looking up on the web to get some actual insight into that. So it's an interesting thing to be looking for. Very hard to find, and that's why we spotted a tree with some of it on. It's gold dust finding it, because it's a rot that appears on the silver birch, so it actually kills the tree eventually. So we're going to go and get some of this, and the chaga is going to kill the tree anyway, so if we can chop that bit off, we're actually helping the tree when we do this. So we're not doing any damage, though I'm sure you shouldn't really be, chopping at trees normally, but I think in this case, I think we can be spared any worry about that, because this stuff will kill the tree, but it actually helps people. It's like the tree trying to repair itself, this stuff, apparently. The tree gives out this sap into this fungus, and it creates this sort of, it's like a choppy wood stuff. Anyway, you'll see. Today we'll be meeting my friend Phil and talking about past lives. So if you're interested in this type of subjects, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and click that little bell thing, and you'll be getting updates every time we put up a new video.
Yes, he's a lovely little fellow, look at this. Yeah. Did you say? Yeah. Come along the side, and he's a lovely little fellow, very, very intelligent.
Oh, another spaniel.
Do you know
he's lovely. Just like the one I had as a child. Biddy, we used to have a dog just like that called Biddy.
Hello, adorable.
He's not allowed to jump up because he's a hearing dog, isn't he?
That's right.
So he's being trained.
That's
for
a
it.
good boy. That's a good boy.
Actually, I like this.
Yeah, for deaf people.
Oh, he's wonderful. He's such a kind little
It took me
fella.
5 minutes, right, to teach
Go
him
and say hello.
Lie
Not
down.
They're
jumping.
very
to
obedient.
sit,
Sit.
to come.
Yeah.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
Good boy. Yes.
So,
That's a good boy.
he's a good boy, yeah.
So you're trained. So these being trained for deaf people.
Yes.
So what do you do with a dog for deaf people?
They
You
just
train
listen.
him?
Why do dogs for deaf people need dogs? Really?
What? No, a most important thing, fire alarm.
Fire alarms.
Because you can have
doorbell.
lights go on when the doorbell goes,
Okay, yeah.
but you can't have anything come on when somebody is asleep and there's fire in the house. This is perfect. Ignore him now.
You look great.
This is meet and greet.
He mustn't jump up.
No.
Hard on a young puppy, though,
That's
isn't
right. But don't say anything. Don't look at him. Ignore him, because that is meet and greet.
it? Okay.
He learns that life
you're
is
teaching
not
him.
all about him.
Okay.
So if the person comes across somebody, I know it's hard for you, isn't it?
This is very good. So what do you think about skeptics and how we would prove reincarnation to the world?
I think skeptics are And no, let's see now. I think that yes, you can use science to prove such a thing as reincarnation, because there's when I done my little bit in study, I learned about probability, the chances of, in the same way that psychic mediumship can be proven with probability, like 50-50. If I try to guess his name, what's the chances of me guessing his name, right? When you consider that I should only be a 50-50 chance of getting it right.
Yeah. Well,
right? That should be two names. It'll either be Dominic or.
But they don't really
Danielle.
They kind of push probability and statistics out, don't they? Because that's what
but it's
W. Banks Rhine tried to do, didn't he? Tried to prove it with statistics, all these Zener-Card tests and things like that. I mean, even when I do a demonstration at mediumship in a spiritualist church, for example, you'll get the first name, the Christian name, the surname, the address where someone lived. I mean, look at that one I did in front of Richard Dawkins that time, where I said to the woman, "You come from Davenport," I said to her, and I said, "They're talking to me about the what was it called? Treacle factory, right?" And I didn't know the woman in the audience, never seen her in my life before, and yet that treacle factory apparently was the sweet factory next door. They used to call it the treacle factory because they boiled up all the sugar there and everything. Now, there's no way in a million years you'd know something like that.
And that's very remote, isn't it?
And that was just chucked out. Dawkins chucks it. He just ignores that. So just statistics just get
bad science.
Well, it is bad science.
It is. When you don't bring that into it, people shouldn't speak with ego. People should speak
they
with
do, though,
numbers.
You see, I got to the point with all these bloody skeptics that I've just given up trying to convince them. I've talked to Dawkins, I've argued with Chris French, I've argued with Susan Blackmore, right the way through the whole career, and there's nothing ever going to convince them, even when you give a really, really incredible piece of evidence to them. I mean, sometimes the things you say, Christian names, surnames, details about people's lives, lottery ticket numbers that the people do and things like that, sequences of numbers, they still ignore it.
Yeah. And what's the chances of that?
The chances are astronomical.
Of getting it right. Or
astronomical getting it right.
Even if you get one name right.
Yes, sir. One name, one Christian name, which are not, without hundreds of questions asking, do you a J and a John or a Joan? You go straight away, would you know someone called Jonathan Allen? And they lived at Davenport Street or something, whatever, something comes to mind. And it's 100% correct. I mean, there's all, and it's been, and all the stuff in the Society of Psychical Research is research that's been done over the centuries,
Oh, yeah.
Centuries, but long time.
I think it's down to a person who starts off, who's wants to find out. There's lots of information out there, and if you believe one way or another way, you'll find a belief system there, and you'll find a belief system there.
Yeah, but science is a belief system. Science is the belief that there is nothing other than the material. It doesn't take consciousness into account. In fact, I might even argue that there's no such thing as the material. Everything is consciousness. But of course that won't fly with science.
Yeah, but we are dealing with our mind, and we are dealing with thought, and we're dealing with a breakdown of consciousness into different, the trees, that's conscious.
Everything's conscious, not just life, but even
everything.
matter.
But,
I mean, this log, it's just so many elements, isn't it? Just a bit of plastic. There's just so many elements, isn't it? But it's kind of conscious that it is logness. That's log, that's not. So that has a certain identity, So everything has even a stone, has a certain identity. Its consciousness is forming itself into something all the time, I mean, so you could argue that there's no material world, that it's all some formulation of consciousness, every single atom.
But that's not what somebody wants to hear, really, is it?
They
when
don't.
Sat there behind the screen, watching us.
No.
Talk. I mean, if you've reached enlightenment, and all those people out there reached enlightenment, then they'll understand what you're talking about. But they'll consider you it's like cuckoo land, wouldn't they, if you start talking about shit like that?
Yeah.
Although me and you know it's true because we've been into deep meditation.
Well, the thing is, you have to be
You've been on LSD.
But that you has to be direct personal experience. It has
direct experience.
It has to be direct personal experience, and that's what all good spiritual things ultimately talk about.
Yeah.
Direct personal experience.
Yeah, it's no good when you got people they sort of reading the sutras and stuff like that, or
Yeah, well, the same problems
Vedas.
happen within religion, don't they? Because
Yeah.
people start to sort of pull it all together as being, this is the only way.
yeah. Oh no.
Yeah, here we are.
Why do you think there's no trees growing here?
I don't know, it's odd, isn't it?
It's a bit unusual, really. When
Oh, nice. Actually, it's quite an interesting place. I love the horses in the background and things.
yeah, it's a nice shot of that.
Oh, so where were we? What were we talking about? We were getting such a good conversation, weren't we? And then
Yeah, it was about porn, wasn't
load
it?
of... No, I don't think so. Not this time. Oh, I know where we're talking about. Live the universe and everything, weren't we? Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We're sorting the world out.
Next best thing.
Yeah.
So we were talking about skeptics, weren't we? As I was saying to you, I really find I have given up trying to convince skeptics about whatever we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about reincarnation or spiritualism or whatever. I mean, the more evidence you seem to give them, they just reject it.
Yeah, but
Because-
you don't use science to help you there, do you?
Yeah, but the thing is, science, I don't think science has the tools
Yes,
to
they
to
do.
do, because all the things we're doing are about experience. I mean, even when you give, like I was talking about earlier with you, I was saying about the odds of getting things right in the things, getting a first name, Christian name, addresses, lottery numbers, and all sorts of things you give in a spiritualist audience, for example, all taken, all to people you've never met in your life before. I mean, the odds of getting that right are just
Yes.
extraordinary.
And they call that the science of probability.
Yeah, but they don't class it. Like that
What-
one I
what-
did with Dawkins, he
Yeah,
just
yeah.
rejected the whole thing. I said I said to him that down the road here that you live in Davenport and there's something about the treacle factory, and she said, we used to, as kids, we called the sweet shop down the sweet factory down the road called the treacle factory. I think
Yeah.
it was Davenport, somewhere like that.
How can you settle an argument? How can you settle an argument?
What with the skeptics?
A
I mean, I
skeptic,
don't
a
think you can.
scientist, a scientist.
I think it has to just come from personal experience now. I'm fed up with talking to the people that trying to convince the skeptics that any of this is right.
I mean,
And why should I waste my energy and time when there's people out there that have gone through all that nonsense, have seen beyond that, have had some personal experience themselves, and I talk to them.
The thing is, right, Craig, I will not fall down and give up, especially when I know I'm speaking the truth.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Nobody should ever be allowed to walk over the truth with a belief
Yeah.
system.
yeah.
End of, right? And that's the problem. It's ego.
What
When
they
you have
do.
two people discussing something,
Mm.
it should be if you got something right, yeah, and we debate on something that's right, then I have to stand down and accept you're right. I have to take on your point of view,
Mm.
okay? And if we come to a point where we can't know which one is right, is it you right or is it him right?
Mm.
What you just said.
Well,
to
I
me,
used to argue that all the time. I did all sorts of
Yeah, but
programs
hang
on
on a
telly
minute
with
now.
it and everything.
there is a science, and it's called the
Mm.
science of probability. If
Yeah.
you've got a half a dozen things right out of 16 things, the chances of you getting that right, science of probability says that is impossible unless one, you cheated, or two, your ESP or whatever you want to call it got something significant in it that we don't know about.
Mm.
And
See,
you're
an
dealing with
individual can
something.
judge that, but I've got to the point now where I remember reading the story of the Buddha, and after he got his enlightenment, he got to the point and he thought, I can't explain this to anybody. And there's no point. I can't explain it. I'm not going to explain it. I'm not going to
Yeah,
do
but he
anything with
did.
it. And then he went to the lotus, a bit like this muddy area around here. He went to the part where there was the lotus flowers growing, and some lotus were under the water, some were out, some were budded, and some were almost budded. And he thought, I'm going to talk to the ones that have almost bloomed, And I think that's the way you have to do it ultimately. You have to talk to those who have eyes to see, those who have ears to hear. Jesus said that, didn't he? That comes
Jesus,
to
yeah.
mind too. Same as the Buddha, really. You talk to those that are open to it, because I just don't think it's worth bothering that. I don't think it's worth me wasting my energy, personally, talking to skeptics anymore. I'm going to just talk to those that are open and awake.
Well, the thing is, I got the point where I would not even talk. I don't want to talk to somebody who's going to believe everything I say.
Well,
If I talk to someone, right, and I know I've experienced something, right, and I want them to say to me, well, tell me how you experience that. How can I experience that? To prove it.
Yeah.
Prove it to myself. And that's what Buddha done.
Yeah,
Buddha,
and actually, you've got a real important point there, because the other problem we have, okay, we've got all these closed mind people in the world. The other problem we have is those people that have too active imagination, they believe 10 things before breakfast. I mean, on reincarnation, for example, the number of people I've met, people proudly say, I was a Zulu in a past life, and I was a gardener in Atlantis. How can you prove he's a gardener in Atlantis?
There is, for me, I'm absolutely convinced, right, that again, I can use probability to prove that what I say about my past life is significant.
Yeah, well,
significant
that gets it onto the past life.
We got pictures, we got personality traits, and soul groups of people coming back to relive their lives with the same people over and over again. Fortunately, in the last 100 and some odd years, we've had photography and we've had people writing books, and we can basically fit this person to that person. And if you've got a group of, say, 12 people that was close together in one life, in the last life, and the same people, they look much the same,
time and time again,
and they're doing much the same things, the
Yeah.
chances of that again, in the law of probability, is impossible.
Because I think we do. Well, first of all, a belief I have is that we incarnate again, time and time again.
I don't believe
as soul groups.
Yeah.
Right. Now, for me, I have lots of feelings about past lives, who I could have been and who I might have been. I also have to push out anything that might possibly be fantasy. I might not always been a good guy, right? But then for me, the big one came for me when I came across those Naadi Oracles, because they had in them, they told me all about my life. They gave my name, my brother's name, my father's name, and all details about my life in such accuracy. And then finally, it gives you a past life and why you've got the particular conditions you got in your life here. And it gave me 3 or more past lives that I've had. And we've had multiple past lives, So I think I'm not seeing the one where we've been in the similar past life in those.
Well, the problem with Naadi is you've got to rely on Indian people, and the problem with that is there could be something very significant in the fact that it can read out your past life.
Yeah.
But the problem comes when you got it in somebody's hands who's after money, and they can.
That Naadi business.
And then they say, "You got to do this. You got to do that. You got to buy me a cow. You got to."
Yeah, that's right. One in 1,000 is real. The rest, it's massively corrupt. It's true. It's massively.
It is, yeah.
But I think I've been lucky that I have found people that were genuine. I mean, I took a lot of finding.
Do you believe that, or do you know that?
I know it, but I also know that some of them aren't good.
How do you know?
Well, I can only know on my own personal experience, because I made sure.
What kind of proof is that?
Well, the proof I had was that there was no way they could know who I was.
Yeah, about the past.
And they could not known anything.
Craig Hamilton Parker is a very well-known person.
It is, but they didn't even have my name.
If I done it, even me, mind, they can find out who I am on the internet.
Well, not if you don't give them your name. Not until they don't know who you are until you start speaking to them. I've had people like heart surgeons.
Do you know they can get your number from your computer?
Yeah. Well, that's an argument people put. But
a lot of people were doing that with
there's lots of ways you could do it. Lots of ways, but it doesn't. And I've been there in India with them and been with the Leaves without internet, without anything. So no, and I've known
but they brought you from England to India.
Yeah.
So they knew you before you got
I tell you,
there.
it's real, Phil. It really is.
No,
real.
I'm just questioning with common sense, right?
But I know that's what people will ask, and that's quite right that people should ask that. And that's my immediate problem with it was, could these guys just look it up on the internet? Because I know people that used to go to see the Naadi before the internet.
To a skeptic, he's going to crucify you on
Absolutely. It's very hard to do.
Yeah.
That's why you have to go by personal experience.
That's why you can only use the law of probability, and you can
when you want to argue with the skeptics. But my attitude
you can't confirm it. You always.
But what about incarnate? How would you? So one of the things people are interested in: who was I in a past life, right? And so I feel I found a lot of my information for some of it in the Naadi. So
but how much proof of that have you got?
But how about an normal person? How would you find? I mean, you believe you've had past lives, don't you?
I don't believe it. I know.
Well, then, so you know it.
First of all,
how do you know it?
First of all, I came through with memory, and I know memory is not 100% reliable. Okay, So I put it down, I held it there. Even when I was a kid, I knew I had a life. I remember asking my mother, I wrote about it in my book. And I said, Mum, did I live before? And she said, no. But I remembered things, right? And so I just let it go. Then years came by and things started coming to me. And I went into, well, should I go about deep meditation? Because it all started then, really. People started turning up. And then information started coming. And I knew who I was, but I didn't have a name. I had the pictures, I had the places, but not names of places.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we came across the story of, I won't mention the name of that person, but you know what I'm talking about, who I used to be. He came with
And I told you that name of that person in Spiritualist Church,
yeah,
didn't I?
yeah, exactly.
Before we met.
Okay, I'll speak his name, Gurdjieff. Okay? And that day when we met, I was going through grief. It was a dark day, and I felt an impulsion to go to the Spiritualist Church.
Yeah.
That same day, I went into the library to look for a book to buy, and I picked up a book. I opened the page out. Who was it? Gurdjieff, and it was Madame Blavatsky. Okay, I bought the book. Came over to see you, and then what were you talking about?
Well, I was on the platform demonstrating as a medium. I'd never met you at that point, had I?
Never met each other at all.
Never didn't know who you were. You were just in the audience.
But this goes much further.
And I came to you and I said, I can't remember the exact details, but I remember saying something to you about Gurdjieff.
Yeah.
Now, had I picked up that you'd been reading about Gurdjieff, or had I picked up that you were Gurdjieff?
There was one other thing.
That's the hard one. I don't know. I can't remember.
But there's one other thing as well. You spoke about.
I remember thinking Gurdjieff. Who in this audience would know the name Gurdjieff?
Yeah, yeah, and let's face it. You know, old women sat in a spiritualist church. You know, smelling
weird,
pissy knickers and pissy pants and stuff like that, isn't it? You know,
it is a bit jumble sale.
It's a bit over the heads, and you spoke. Your discussion was about the many eyes, and that was Gurdjieff again.
Was it?
I
can't remember.
And Gurdjieff was famous for that.
Because I know when you're talking from the platform in the Spiritualist Church, both the things you say, you're taken. You're taken by the Spirit.
I take it even further now, though. I met you. I was drawn there that day, and we ended up. You were the only person that had everything right. But you had two things wrong, or was it three? No, two things wrong, I think it was. Well,
this isn't the demonstration.
Yeah, and I went back home and I told Claire and Crystal, who are my daughters, and you said she had bottle blonde hair, the oldest daughter, and you said Crystal was having trouble at school. Yeah. Well, I knew that was wrong because I'd only asked Crystal the night before I went to the demonstration. Yeah. She said, "No, Dad, it's all okay at school." And Claire, she's a natural blonde, so you had that wrong as far as I was concerned.
Yeah.
But you was close. And then I went and said that to him, and Claire said, "Yeah, I've been bleaching my hair to tone it up."
Oh, right.
And Crystal said, "Well, Dad," she said, "I have been having trouble at school, but I didn't want to tell you and worry you."
Yeah.
So he was actually.
I remember now something else was you told me afterwards because.
Can I put something else on
the Red Hot Dutch?
Yeah, I was Bianca. But
yeah, I said Red Hot Dutch in the Spiritualist Church. Would you understand Red Hot Dutch?
Yeah.
And Bianca, who's now with Jane at the moment, was red hot because she's Dutch, isn't she?
She's red hot.
Yeah. And she's red hot.
She still is, actually.
What a thing to say in a Spiritualist church. Like, Gurdjieff and Red Hot Dutch. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I've distracted you, Phil. Yeah, but you had a lot of other proof, didn't you, since that?
Of course, yeah, because, like I said, what we got now, we got 150 years of photography, filming, books being written by groups of, and that group of people that we come from, and if I look at the pictures, right, and I compare them 100 years ago to now, all those people look the same. What's the chances of that?
Yeah, I know. I've seen you compare the photographs.
And not only that, right?
Because you say
you're talking. You
say that I'm Orage from Gurdjieff's life.
I know you don't believe it.
Well, I'm not sure because there's an awful. I do agree with you. There's an awful lot of similarities.
I don't care what you believe.
Yeah,
I don't really care what you believe.
I've got to know it in my soul yet, but I'm kind of not close to it.
If you've got a problem with that, you are not meant to know it because your karma have got something else to do.
It could be
because you'll get given an edge.
Yeah.
If you really believe you was all right, you'll be given an edge. And this test you got to do, you'll corrupt the test, and it'll waste a lifetime.
Yeah. So
you're not meant to listen to me about that. But for me, it doesn't matter what you believe, and I understand karma. And I think.
So you believe that I was Orage, you were Gurdjieff.
No, I don't believe it.
When you've had the feeling,
Listen,
well, how
listen.
can I say? What's a different word? I
This
know
is-
I don't
this-
like
this
that
is
word.
where you-
Believe.
this is
You've
where
had
you go
experience of understanding
This
that.
is where you go wrong, where I go right. I don't believe it. The law of probability says that cannot be true, but
Okay.
it is true.
But there's a lot of. What's some of those probabilities then?
Well, to start with, I think personally you look a hell of a lot like Oraj, right? So
I'm
does
better looking.
so does Bianca. So does everyone who I show those two pictures to.
Yeah.
There's Oraj, except your hair, of course.
Yeah,
But the actual facial features, the eyes, everything is Oraj.
I do look a bit like him sometimes.
Then you've
Around
got
the
a-
eyes. Yeah.
This brings there's Danielle,
Yeah.
right? And if you look at what was the name of Jessie
Yeah.
and Danielle,
I remember you
it
compared
abso-
those.
you- you show if I show it to other people except you and probably Dominique, though he probably won't believe it because he's not meant to either. But if I show it to other people who's unbiased,
Yeah.
they'll say, yeah, they're the same person, but it's 100 years
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah.
And not only that, right?
And you thought Jane was Jean Bessett, didn't you?
there's no doubt about it. Jane,
Yeah.
she looks like what's her name?
Bessett, isn't it?
Huh?
Wasn't it Bessett? You said
No,
Annie Bessett. Oh, I can't remember the name.
Besant,
Bessett,
something like that.
famous medium
Yeah,
at
yeah,
the time
she-
of Gurdjieff.
No
yeah.
doubt about it. No doubt
Yeah.
about it. And again, I don't.
Had all the connections with India. She did
Yeah,
too.
and-
Bessett.
There's something else, right? You started up in this life. You tried to start up a magazine called The New Age, for instance.
Yeah.
Oraj had been running a magazine called The New Age. What's
Yeah.
the chances of that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And then he was into something to do with Greeks, and the word Delphi comes into it.
Oh,
and
yeah, because I owned the chat room Delphi.
Yeah.
We're going to
What's the
Delphi, by the way,
chances?
next year.
What is the chances of you looking like Oraj?
Well, so what did Oraj have to say about Delphi then?
I can't remember, mate, but I just know.
You
who
checked it
you are.
all out when you were doing
Yeah,
your
the
research
chances
and
of it
reading.
is impossible.
Yeah.
But you did the same thing then as what you're doing now.
Yeah.
Oraj, what I liked about him as well, he was a bit of a flamboyant character too. He was a bit. Do you know what he did? He stood up for the women's suffragettes and he went out there. And I think he was one of the guys who helped the women out. He chained himself.
And then
to
I'm
the-
always saying to Jane, get on
Yeah.
with your chores.
Yeah, yeah, but it's like you were that person,
Yeah.
Oraj was exactly the flamboyant kind of outward person as well you are.
Didn't you have some? You said to me, looking at your belief, your thing with what you said about Gurdjieff. You said your handwriting was very similar.
It was, yeah. I changed my handwriting, but my first handwriting was when I was younger. I used to write with more round, but now I scribble more
Yeah.
because I haven't got much patience for writing.
But you said your
if I take-
writing and Gurdjieff's are
Yeah.
almost the same.
exactly
And didn't
the
Gurdjieff
same.
say there was going to be an important date or something in his writing? I remember you.
No,
telling
this
me-
was one of Gurdjieff's students. It was he started a place in London, just around the corner from where I was born.
Yeah.
He was but 1.8 miles from where I was born. That was what's his name? He wrote
Uspensky?
no, not Spensky. The other guy who was in the army. I actually know where he is now as well. And
But I thought there was a date, and it turned out to be your birthday. or
yeah, it
something.
was.
So he wrote your
He
birthday.
said he started a place in Coombe Springs. He went on after Gurdjieff to have other students working under him, and he opened up a spiritual centre in Coombe Springs, 1.5 miles from where I was born. And what was his bloody name?
Annoying, isn't it?
Yeah,
You tell me later. I'll
I'll
put it up on
remember
the
it when I
screen.
walk up there later
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
And and the chances, and not only that, there was something peculiar that happened when I was born as well. Our mum said a bunch of nurses came in, or so-called students, she said, and they took me off all day.
Yeah.
I was gone all day,
Yeah.
and then they were getting a bit worried,
Yeah.
and that was a strange thing to do, really, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm not putting anything.
I
on
mean,
that.
I think there's reincarnation. I mean, I remember seeing this little boy, and he came up to us when we were in the fossil shop, and he says, "I am King so and so so and so," and he gave me this whole thing. But the thing is, he was speaking to me in a way that a king would address you, and there was a sort of quality to his language that was not right for a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
And I lived in this area because we were down in Cornwall there, and this is where I had my kingdom and things like that. He's talking all these big words and things. And the mother said, "Oh, sorry, is he disturbing you again? Is he talking about being king?" So I can't remember the exact names of it now. Yes, he is. Oh, yeah, he goes on about that all the time. I'd love to have interviewed him, because children have these memories.
Yeah, but it's like, thing is with it though, Craig, you get caught out again there by a wanker like Dawkins, and you'll say, well, that's a belief system. How can you back that up?
Well, I can't.
I got lots and lots of memories.
But sometimes these people have, like, in the blocks and tapes and things, people have been to the places where they knew from the previous lives. I mean, when I went to India, I feel India has been a huge part of my past. When I went to India, I just knew India. I mean, I knew India. I knew the lifestyle, the warm weather, the climate, the atmosphere of India. I just knew it. I just knew it,
Yeah, but it's like I said again.
It's all there.
I'm feeling those hundreds and thousands.
I mean, we
of
must
people.
have had many, many, many lives.
Yeah, but
No,
it's like
how
people.
many? I don't know.
People will be listening to you, and they'll shut you down with their belief.
Oh, that's right.
And
I mean, I don't.
you
That's what I said.
can't
I
argue
just
against
going
that.
back to where we were at the start.
Yeah.
I just don't think there's any sign. I mean, they tried with the blocks and tapes. They tried with showing past life records that have been confirmed in the records and things, and still people don't believe it. So I think you just have to take these things on trust.
That is not about an intelligent person who doesn't believe facts.
Mm.
You don't need to worry about unintelligent people doing facts.
That's what I say.
For facts.
Speak to the people that are open.
Well, it's like
Every moment is joy, and every moment is suffering at the same time, simultaneously, isn't it?
there's birth, which birth is when a woman has a child, she suffers pain, and then she releases the child, and then there's ecstasy.
Yeah.
The child lives his life, and then there's death, what we call death or transformation. I like to say transformation because I'm absolutely 100% convinced that there's no such thing as death, and it's the biggest lie you've ever been taught.
Yeah.
You just transform.
Of course it's not. But there's not even suffering.
Yeah.
Because maybe suffering is just our perspective, that if we just move through life, we just keep moving, as it were, neither moving towards suffering or to joy, we just treat them exactly the same and just move through it, then actually there is no suffering, because you've transcended it.
What is it that causes suffering though?
Suffering is holding on.
That's right. And then holding on, but not actually holding on, because in the beginning you get a wife, you get a child, and you're holding on. It doesn't hurt, does it? In fact, you'll say it's lovely.
Yeah.
But then eventually...
But that's why I say you've got to just accept everything just going through.
Yeah.
Like we had to give the other day, yesterday we took some of Willow's clothes down to the charity shop. When she was little, and it seemed so sad.
Yeah.
All that childhood being given away. Well, obviously it's nice to give it away so someone can have some benefit from it. But it's like you just have to let everything go, don't you? I mean, like there back at the tree, like there, I was thinking about I said about poo sticks. It reminds me of playing that on bridges like that here in the forest when we were kids, And if you held on to that, you'd be in trouble, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And
but yet,
so everything's a constant state of flux, change,
transformation,
and that's the answer, I think, to overcome suffering.
If you hold on to transformation, then you're about
you've got to have this sort of thing, total trust in the universe, and just completely let go to it. Not go into gurus and all that, because a lot of people give up and say the guru will do it for me. But you've got to go beyond that, haven't you? You've got to just be trusting the everything.
Yeah. Well, if you haven't learned to let go, life will teach you sooner or later, because of the nature of transformation and everything is under constant change, that it will teach you through suffering that you have to let go.
Yeah.
You become wise. And then I think, finally, when you no longer fear death, because that's the last thing, it's holding on to life. And when you let go of life and you let go of death, then you're free. So I think there is an ultimate end, and that's what we call enlightenment eventually.
Yeah. Well, I think enlightenment is to realise that it's all just a flow. It's all just unfolding. You know, all it is the unfolding of everything I've done before. It's the unfolding of all my karma, all your karma, all our collective karma. It's just a flowering, a constant process of becoming. And that, I think, is the answer, really. You get like that, you should see it as a flow.
Yeah, I think if you can be fearless of death, then you'll be fearless of life. But if you fear death, then you fear life, so you don't really live.
Well, death's the ultimate nudge, isn't it?
The rules
Death's the ultimate nudge to get us on the path, isn't it? Because we can have all these things, all fantastic, but death's there. You know? I can have family, but death's there.
So that's
I can have money, but death's there.
Yeah.
And that's our best friend.
Yeah. That's why I say that's the ultimate let go. Yeah. Hello. That's the ultimate let go, isn't it? Finally, when you no longer fear that, you're free of everything. Right?
Yeah. I think that's what I try to do as a medium, is first of all help people overcome the fear of death.
Where is your spirit?
Who we are, where's our focus?
No, I mean, when you talk to someone who's left their body, a spirit that's left the body, the ego have left the body.
Yeah.
Right? That's what we call spirit. What is it? What is it I leave in my ring? Is that my spirit, or
yeah,
is it the same? Is it the same energy as the spirit?
Yeah. You see, it's, the ultimate spirit, who we finally are, is exactly the same in this life as it is in any phase of existence, next life or whatever, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're always in this point, as it were. We're almost in this point, which is me, which is the I, which is consciousness, which still has identity, but at the same time is also, that same point is also the absolute, isn't it? It's also it's also the absolute at the same time. And that's when you start getting somewhere, I think. You start thinking like that.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that discussion about reincarnation. And if you are interested in knowing about your own past life, you can contact one of our readers through our website, where we have past life readers at psychics.co.uk. And don't forget, follow this channel and do leave a comment, please, because we'd love to know about your past lives and your interests in this topic too.